Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is our year to shine, and last year was our simple abundance year. I hope you were along with us for that, or that you're checking out some of those videos from last year, because this entry today that I'm going to talk about, the topic, is very well aligned with simple abundance. We did an entire year-long journey with that last year. It was based on Sarah Von Bronick's book, Simple Abundance. And we learned that simple abundance, and the word abundance, you might think about money or manifestations or belongings, right? But we learned that simple abundance is really more about being authentic and having that inner light and loving the things that you do have, being grateful every day. There's so much more to it. There's the principles that are across all of my thumbnails still: joy, harmony, beauty, order, simplicity, and gratitude. That interwoven tapestry of contentment, of all of those things. And so Laurie, in her book Enough, Laurie McCammon, talking about this right now in the month of January 2021, she is telling us about the never enough story in terms of the way that things are set up so that we always want more materialistically. And we have this fear of failure. Like if somebody else gets a handle on our stuff or we lose it all, it's just going to be devastating. You know, it's just like this standard that we set for ourselves. But what is so well aligned with simple abundance is her statement, inner enoughness is the real abundance. I like that, inner enoughness. What do you think that means? When I think of inner enoughness, I think of probably self-worth, self-confidence, peacefulness, feeling fulfilled about the small things. Like, does it matter that you live in a shack? Being happy, we talked about that happiness index. And I'm going to read a couple things. They're not necessarily in order here, but just in terms of what I want to say. There's a different kind of enough that's manufactured by the never enough story worldwide. It is a kind of generic, prescribed, or coerced list of things that supposedly leads us to experiencing love, acceptance, and social status. This kind of social pressure to obtain more things isn't good for us or the planet. It places a heavy burden on natural resources and does not lead to lasting contentment. It's important for us to be able to distinguish this list of generic things from what arises from our authentic selves as a core passion or need. Remember, this month we're doing Cheryl Richardson's Extreme Self-Care Challenges this year. And the month of January was all about determining where we might feel deprived and what our needs are. So that's really getting to the basis of some of what Laurie is saying. And this is the real key and the real simple abundance. What we truly long for is a lasting experience of inner contentment and sufficiency. Although we may realize from experience that possessions rarely live up to the standard, we are still buying into the never enough illusions and traps. Why? We tend to blame ourselves for our unhappiness, thinking we must work harder or search farther for the next shiny object that we finally succeed in satisfying our hunger. The ego is far less precise than the heart. It will settle for having anything that is immediate, easy, safe, and impulsive, or generally considered better, rather than to bring us what we really need. The heart, if we tune in, would identify precisely what it is that makes us flutter and come alive. It would guide us to the experience of what we do need. The ego gets hooked by the temptation or flavor of the day, making us believe the generic path is our path to happiness and success. Cultural scripts, sales pitches, fads, and norms create an overwhelming flood of messages to convince us to keep searching and striving among the generic must-haves and must-dos that are not based on any kind of real need or utility. Yeah, I mean, the never enough story, I think we talked at the end of last year too about the comparison The never enough story is really tied in with comparison too. Because if you're looking at other people's lives and you think, oh, that person seems so happy, oh, it must be because they live in that really big house, or they drive the best kind of car, or they have the newest fashions, things like that. So if you weren't necessarily comparing, then there wouldn't be a feeling of lack. And I think the more I read Laurie's idea for this new world, it's almost like communism, I have to say. And I mean, not necessarily in a negative way, like and governed by the government or anything. But if you do get rid of, like, if things are more equal for everybody, then there isn't like a striving to outdo. But I sort of wonder if, I mean, maybe that would have to be something, again, that would have to be over time changed in terms of human behavior, because is it just within our human nature to just want to excel? Or I don't know, is that something that we learned? Again, larger truths and questions here. When we feel we need external markers to be worthy of love and acceptance, we are converting or covering up a wound rather than healing it. We may have been taught that we must earn acceptance and love through our achievements and things, but when we buy into this idea, we will never know the answer to our central questions, which she says are, am I enough? Am I loved for my achievements and things, or for simply being me? This is why I believe the enough message begins with, I am enough. It is our first step in the process of transforming our lives in the world. When we get in touch with how precious and irreplaceable we are more likely to give ourselves permission to depart from the generic, quote, must-haves, enabling us to focus on what truly brings us the lasting sense of meaning and happiness. And this leads to us being of great service to the world. So there's that larger message too about affecting the world positively just by one little thing that you might do. What do you think about this so far? Again, it's very much simple abundance and getting to the root of who you are and what really matters. And we talked so much last year about paring down and really like holding an object in your hand and thinking like, do I use you? Have you served your purpose? Am I ready to let you go? You know, am I going to be sad if you're gone? And just living a little more simply and not having all this clutter and not feeling like it matters what other people have. I mean, maybe you get joy out of having certain things, and maybe it's not about anybody else. It's like you just love really fine things, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're feeling like you have to have it because it's a status thing, or because it's kind of filling a void that, you know, you're not feeling loved inside or loved in your external world, and it's like you have to do something like that, then it's just masking that wound that she says. I think there's just a little more here. Yeah, and she's talking about competition and comparison, like I was just saying. When we realize that we are enough, what motivates us is no longer to fill an inner void, but to express ourselves through our passions and gifts in a way that is aligned with the world's needs. We don't need to take ourselves so seriously, and we don't need to sit in the driver's seat or take credit for the joy that it is bringing to the world. We are in a mode of connection, freedom, flow, and service. Because the universe is wondrous and is potential to work with us vast, we will repeatedly be delighted and surprised by what presents itself as matches for our passions. This truly is a rich and abundant life. And we talked so much last year about really trying to dig deep and see what sort of gifts you could bring forth to the world. Considering that we may be inherently enough can be an eye-opening revelation at first. It may be difficult to imagine a world without the old self-judging inner chatter and without need to prove that we are better than everyone else. Without these scripts, it becomes peaceful and quiet inside. We experience inner freedom. Our ability to concentrate and focus grows. Without the inner judge peering over our shoulders to question our choices and to critique our performance, we can enjoy what we are doing, and we can be fully engaged in the now. We talked a lot about how living in the now is also a part of living in a simple, abundant way. You're not looking back. You're not looking ahead. You're just in the now. Remember that entry, if not now, when? I wonder if you can challenge yourself to be rethinking some of these thoughts that are very much ingrained in us, that you have to have certain things or hit certain milestones. It's something that I shared that I'm not super materialistic, but I like to have nice things and I like to be surrounded by nice things. So it's something that I struggle with a little bit. I think it's only human. This is the experience that we're having in a certain society and the way that it's set up. I like her suggestion that we can become of more service to others when we're not so in that never enough story. Do you think that you are being of service to others in any way? I think I could be more of service to others. But I am working on the I am enough. And I think that our January self-care, our extreme self-care challenge is very well timed with this, because we have to know how we may be feeling deprived and look at how we can fulfill those voids in healthy ways, as opposed to maybe over shopping or just maybe comparing ourselves to someone else and just feeling badly because we haven't achieved as much or acquired as much. Yeah. So it starts with us and that inner contentment. There were so many terms that were very similar to Sarah Von Bronick's book that we went through last year. We're going to continue on. We are getting close to 3/4 of the way through the book Enough. So maybe 2, maximum 3 more entries as we round out this topic, because I am finding there's a lot of redundancy as I'm going through. She is saying a lot of the same things in different ways. So there's quite a bit that I haven't really discussed because we've already talked about it in one way or the other. But I know that I am thinking a lot about the word enough and being enough and having enough, and yeah, it's making me think. So I hope it's making you think. Hope you'll leave me a comment too. Thanks as always for watching, and I will see you on the next video as we continue our year to shine. Big hug to you all. Bye-bye.